So usually when you hear about circadian, people think of circadian rhythm for their sleep, and that is incredibly important. I have worked very hard on my own circadian sleep rhythm, and it's manifested in really good quality sleep. So when I sleep, and I share my sleep data every day on my stories here on Instagram, when I sleep, I'm aiming to get really good REM and deep sleep. And if I get those things, then I know my day is going to go well the next day. But have you ever thought about the circadian rhythm of your energy intake? Think about this: when you were a crappy garbage eater, what was your circadian rhythm on energy intake? It was messed up because it was probably all over the board because you were stoking the flames of all of your body's hormonal responses to that crap you were eating. But once you start eating more of a ketogenic diet, what happens? You fall into what? Maybe a 1 to 2 meal a day type of routine. And that's your circadian rhythm with your eating. So again, I want you to think about this circadian timing is all about not just sleep, but it's all about your eating. There is kind of this, like there was a long time where I would basically eat at 8 o'clock in the morning, and I would eat again at say 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And that was my meals for the day. And guess what, guys? That's still pretty much how I eat now. Now, if there's a day that I wake up that I'm not hungry at a certain time and I don't eat because of the clock. I only eat because my satiety signals tell me to. But you fall into a circadian rhythm with your eating. And your physical activity. Like people think, oh, I have to go to the gym. I have to like make myself go and this after work. And it's not according to your body saying, hey, dude, I got some extra energy. Let's go work it off. And so I'm working on that one. I've got the sleep down. I've got the eating down. I'm working on that, finding that and feeling that circadian rhythm in physical activities. But all of these are important in the regulation of your body fat and your body weight. This internal circadian timing system in mammals is entrained to a 24-hour cycle through light signals reaching a master clock in the hypothalamus, and has evolved to align activities and behaviors, things like being awake, physical activity and eating, sleep, inactivity, and fasting with the day and night cycle. So everything about what you do in your life is all about that sun up, sun down, moon up, moon down, sun up, sun down, moon up, moon down. We're on this constant 24-hour cycle, and we have pretty much entrained our bodies, or should entrain our bodies, to go according to that cycle. Because metabolic processes are entrained to these circadian rhythms, food intake at inappropriate circadian times may lead to some adverse metabolic outcomes, including developing obesity, type 2 diabetes, and cardiovascular disease. And I see several practitioners on here across all my platforms. You know that if your client comes to you and they say, look, I'm having trouble, I'm gaining weight and I don't know why, and then you start digging deeper and you see their food is good, then you need to start looking at maybe they're timing their food outside of the circadian rhythm of their eating window. And I've found in my experience for many years eating low carb and ketogenic that falling into that circadian rhythm of eating is so important, just as much as falling into the circadian rhythm of sleeping and falling into the circadian rhythm of your physical activity. So if you've got a difficult client, you're trying to figure out why can't they shed those pounds? Why are they trending towards higher body fat percentage when they're doing everything right? This, according to the new science, might be the reason. This is encouraging to me because I have fought some body fat coming back on my body, and I think it may have to do with my circadian rhythm as it relates to physical activity. So I'm going to work on that aspect, but just be cognizant of the energy intake, meal timing, sleep, and physical activity circadian rhythms. All right, let's get back to the study. And if you just joined us, yes, Jimmy's getting all nerdy with the studies today. A January 2021 study in the journal Nutrient says late eating and sleep timing will determine your body fat percentage. Really, really fascinating stuff. Dietary patterns have emerged and changed over recent decades with a shift towards more frequent eating events over a longer period of time throughout the day. I wonder why people eat more often. They tell us, oh, you got to eat every 2 hours or your blood sugar's going to be out of whack. Well, yeah, if you eat foods that exacerbate blood sugar, that's exactly what happens. So can you blame people for changing their dietary pattern when you've been pushing the very thing that's making them have to eat more often? Findings from a number of epidemiological and observational studies report associations between breakfast skipping and obesity, type 2 diabetes, and cardiovascular disease. Well, the reason those studies exist, and I've talked about those studies even before I had Jimmy Rants, many years I've been talking about these so-called don't skip breakfast or you'll be obese and have type 2 diabetes and cardiovascular disease. Well, what they find is people that skip breakfast tend to be hungry, so that when they eat later, they tend to eat more energy than they would have had they had a meal in the morning. Plus, always the elephant in the room, what they're eating in the studies or what they're skipping in the studies is always some carbohydrate-based breakfast. And so they're trying to make the point, oh, see, this is why you need to have your oatmeal or your cereal or whatever you're having in the morning, because you'll end up gaining weight, blah, blah, blah. But they never talk about the quality of the food that you eat in those studies. Night shift work is also associated with a later and more prolonged eating window, and food intake at night is linked to obesity. Despite it being similar calories, some reports suggest dietary quality in shift workers, while others do not show a difference. So just looking at the other studies. But yeah, a third shift. I used to be an overnight disc jockey at a Christian radio station back in the 90s. I was the guy that was on from like 10 p.m. until 6 a.m. the next morning. So I know all about that. And I know all about how that messing up of your sleep timing does increase your appetite. Like I could not get enough food. And I was very much a crappy garbage eater in my 20s. And yeah, so I can personally attest to that. In addition, a higher percent of total daily energy intake consumed during the evening and night has been associated with greater risk of overweight and obesity. I personally try not to eat too much past 3 to 4 o'clock. That's kind of the window that I sort of fall into naturally. My circadian rhythm of eating falls into that. And what that does is that enables me to digest all that food, have it completely digested. Generally takes about 3 to 4 hours for most of the digestion process to take place, so that by the time I hit that pillow at night, for me somewhere around 7, 8 o'clock when I go to bed, then I'm going to be able to sleep well because I've let that food digest. A lot of people, they eat late or they'll stuff food in their mouth really fast, like within an hour of bedtime. And I'm thinking, how in the world do you eat an hour before bedtime? And you'll notice this, and I notice it when I've done looking at the data, looking at the Oura Ring data, and I've eaten later because I kind of had to. When I've eaten later, almost always destroys my sleep in the REM and in the deep sleep. Always. And you can try that for yourself. If you have some kind of a Fitbit or Oura Ring or something that tracks sleep, try that as an experiment. You know what it is normally. Then try eating something like an hour before bedtime and watch what happens to your sleep quality. It goes to the pot. Moreover, in 2 studies examining timing of energy intake in individuals participating in weight loss interventions, participants who consumed more calories in the morning as compared to the evening lost more weight. Did you catch that? Eat more early in the day, less later in the day, and guess what? That results in weight loss. And that is something that I try to do. I try to stack calories early in the day, get my just enough nutrition in the afternoon to squelch hunger, and then I'm good to go. And so they have studies that show that. Despite the fact that they engage in similar caloric intake and similar physical activity. Meal timing is everything. Thus, there is considerable evidence to suggest that inappropriate timing of the energy intake plays an important role in the risk for obesity. So if that's never been on your radar screen before, let it be now. Let it be known that, okay, if you eat early in the day and eat most of your calories earlier in the day, that's going to serve you well in a lot of ways. Concurrent with the shift towards a longer daily duration of eating, there is also evidence of reduced sleep duration and quality over the past several decades. And I've noticed that too. Like the sleep duration, people tend to go to bed later. And then they have to get up early, go to work, take care of family responsibilities. And so I don't know when it happened in our society that we decided to sacrifice sleep. And I've even heard some well-meaning entrepreneur kind of gurus out there. Oh, if you want to achieve your goals, you must sacrifice sleep. And I'm like, you must be crazy. For me, I put a prime on my sleep. And I know that my sleep is going to make me productive when I'm awake. And my quality of sleep and getting it and prioritizing it is going to always result in better results for me and how I feel, ostensibly in my ability to shed body fat and all the other things that we look for. In fact, today is a perfect example. I was wide awake at my normal time of 2:30 this morning. And I have an event that I'm going to today that I know I'm going to be up a little bit later than I normally do. So that's going to happen at the event's at 7 o'clock and it's over by 10 o'clock. So I won't be able to hit the bed till maybe 10:30 tonight. That's way later than I normally do. So what did Jimmy do to try to help with that? I stayed in the bed 2.5 more hours to make sure I got a little bit extra sleep. Now, will it help? I'm sure that when my normal time to go to sleep comes, I'm going to be tired. I'm going to have to kind of suppress it a little bit. And it's, every once in a while, it's no big deal. It's when you do it every day and you sacrifice that sleep when it starts to add up. Prospective studies have found associations between short sleep duration and the increased risk of obesity, diabetes, hypertension, cardiovascular disease, and weight gain. So this is why I like the Oura Ring and I like the Fitbit that measures sleep, because you get a quantification of exactly what your sleep is doing. Because it's not just in the bedtime. Some people say, well, I get good sleep. I stay in the bed for 8 hours. How you feeling? Oh, I'm so grouchy when I wake up. I don't know why. And then you kind of have them check it using a Fitbit or a ring or something. They're like, oh my God, I have no REM or deep. I toss and turn all night. I get up and I don't even realize it. So it's not just duration in the bed. It's actually what are you doing when you're in the bed. Sleep timing has been less studied in the literature, but reports from some of the studies have shown associations between later chronotype, which is the propensity of an individual to sleep at a particular time of day, and higher body mass index and poor dietary quality. So the later you stay up and the later you push past what your body knows it needs to go to sleep at, the higher propensity for you to want to eat more crappy garbage as I call it, and your body's going to trend towards a higher BMI. Is this fascinating stuff, you guys? While accumulating evidence suggests associations between the later meal and sleep timing and an increased risk of obesity, the majority of these studies are based on self-reported rather than objectively measured exposures and outcomes, which I love that they give recognition that, okay, this is data, but it's not good data, and we need that more objective measurement, which is what they're doing in this study that I'm talking about today. Thus, the goal of this study was to evaluate associations between objectively measured free living meal and sleep timing and BMI, body fat, and variables implicated in body weight regulation, including energy intake, which is calories, dietary quality, physical activity, and sedentary behavior in adults who are already overweight